Alright, so good day to everyone. So this is a continuation of our lecture, still under anxiety disorders, but this time this is a different um, problem, okay, or mental health issue, which is called this dissociative disorder. So it is called dissociative because there are actually disruptions of the aspects of uh, consciousness. Okay, may dissociation na nangyayari regarding their identity, okay, or it can be a dissociation in their memory, their actions also regarding their motor behavior, or simply with their awareness on the environment. Okay? So, dissociation, ibig sabihin, hindi nila tawag ito, mapagtagpi-tagpi, hindi nila mai-associate, ano bang term natin doon? Hindi nila yes, maipagtagpi-tagpi, mai-relate yung mga experiences nila with their awareness on the environment, okay, and other concerns, okay, na nabanggit natin kanina. So these are mental disorders in which the normally well-integrated functions of memory, perception, and consciousness are actually separated, okay, or in other term, we it is dissociated. So the disruption or the disassociation may be transient or it may become a well-established pattern of behavior. So unlike normal people who experience a unitary sense of self, those with this kind of problem, the dissociative disorder, have lost their sense of identity and they are confused about who they are. Okay? So dissociative disorders are also called dissociative disorder because this problem is characterized by the person literally dissociating himself. Okay, so he dissociates himself from the situation or experience that is too traumatic for that person to integrate with his conscious self. Okay, so hindi niya ma-integrate ngayon yung kanyang sarili with the conscious self. All right, so all right, so here's an explanation on what um, the conscious mind, pre-conscious mind, subconscious, and the non-conscious mind are. All right, for you to understand very well the different levels of consciousness. Okay, this is actually taken from the theory of Sigmund Freud. Okay, that could help you understand further what dissociative disorders are.
Hi, this is Jay. Welcome to Bright Ideas. Freud used the analogy of the iceberg to illustrate the topographical model of the conscious, the unconscious, the subconscious, and the non-conscious. The first one is the conscious. Freud said that all that we are aware of is stored in our conscious mind. Our conscious mind only comprises a very small part of who we are, so that in our everyday life, we are only aware of a very small part of what makes up our personality. Most of what we are is hidden out of reach. The conscious mind involves all of the things that you are currently aware of and thinking about. It is somewhat akin to short-term memory and is limited in terms of capacity. Your awareness of yourself and the world around you are part of your consciousness. The next one is the unconscious. Freud said that most what we go through in our lives, emotions, beliefs, feelings, and impulses, deep within, are not available to us at a conscious level. He believed that most of what influences us is our unconscious. For example, the Oedipus and the Electra complex were both buried down in the unconscious, out of awareness due to the extreme anxiety they caused. While these complexes are in our unconscious, they still influence our thinking, feeling, and doing in perhaps dramatic way. The unconscious mind is a reservoir of feelings, thoughts, urges, and memories that are outside of our conscious awareness. The unconscious contains contents that are unacceptable or unpleasant, like the feelings of pain, anxiety, or conflict. The last part is the preconscious or subconscious. This is the part of us that we can reach if prompted, but is not in our active conscious. It's right below the surface, but still hidden somewhat unless we search for it. Information like our telephone number, Some childhood memories or the name of your best friend or best childhood friend is stored in the preconscious. While these memories are not part of your immediate awareness, they can be quickly brought into awareness through conscious effort. For example, if you were asked what television show you watched last night or what you had for breakfast this morning, you would be pulling that information out of your preconscious. The water may represent all that we are not aware of, have not experienced, and that has not been made part of our personalities, referred to as the non-conscious.
All right, so that is now those are the different levels of consciousness that could help you understand further later on as we go along with our lecture regarding dissociative disorder. So the mind, all right, sabi natin can separate. All right, so the mind can separate incompatible or unacceptable knowledge, information, or feelings of a traumatic experience from consciousness in order to avoid anxiety or distress associated with them. Okay, so sabi nga natin, sabi nga ng explanation ng kanina, it can actually store traumatic experiences or memories in the subconscious mind. Okay, so literally, it is a way for a person to break the connection between the self and the outside world. Okay, so as well as to distance oneself from the awareness of what is occurring. Ayan. So, if what is happening is too distressful for the mind to be able to to take it it can separate. It has the ability to separate these memories from consciousness or from the conscious mind. Ayan. So dissociation functions as a temporary mental escape to be able to survive painful experiences from which there is no physical escape available. Ayan. So for example, they are confined at home and yet there are unfortunate events that happens and they cannot actually go out from their confines. They have these people have this ability to separate or to put these experiences in a separate a separate vacuum in their minds, all right, which is the subconscious mind. With dissociation, the person forgets the traumatic experience, they avoid and is able to function well enough as though the experience never happened. Okay, so the disconnected information is not erased and lost, but it is just buried in the unconscious mind that cannot be recalled at will. Ayan. So nakita natin, naalala ninyo, yung ating unconscious mind, it is at the bottom part of the iceberg. Yes. And however, it may be resurfaced spontaneously without warning or its emergence to consciousness may be triggered by objects or events in the person's present environment. So it can be triggered by a familiar place, a sin- as um, what do you call this one? A same event which happened in the past, okay, or a same experience, okay, which could help this person recall, all right, or a yes, make this person recall that event, okay, that is synonymous to what happened in the past. So for example, the person may remember that she experienced a sexual assault, but may be unable to recall the face of her rapist. So, or a child, whether who survived a car accident, may remember the events preceding the accident, but not the accident itself, resulting in a temporary mental escape from the fear, from the pain, from the struggles of that traumatic experience. All right. So, in people with dissociative disorders, these traumatic memories are not processed or these are not integrated into a person's mind in the same manner as normal memories. Okay, so as these are buried deep within, okay, the subconscious portion of the mind. So, as this traumatic experience causes a great deal of psychological distress, and it can lead to the person's inability to analyze, and they cannot actually edit them, or right. So the person cannot is unable to edit these memories to fit them properly in the mind, but instead they are dissociated or split off. and then they may erupt into consciousness from time to time without warning. Okay? So pwede siyang bumabalik-balik, okay, through flashbacks, through, through abrupt appearance in the consciousness. All right. So over a period of time, these two sets of memories, the normal, okay, which is the present, and the traumatic ones, okay, which are experiences in the past, may coexist as parallel sets without being combined or blended. Okay, so pwede siyang mag-appear anytime, alright? Na hindi man lang yung walang pasabi kumbaga, ayan. So, this in extreme cases, differences of dissociated memories may give rise to numerous, alright, or several identities within the person. That is why, in the past, we call this dissociative disorders. An example of this would be your multiple personality disorder, which is now called as your dissociative identity disorder today. Ayan. So, sabihin natin, in extreme cases, different sets of dissociated memories may produce, alright, several identities of that person. Okay, with each identity carrying a different set of memories and personality traits, as what happens in your dissociative identity disorder, which we will be discussing later on. So because dissociative disorders are characterized by changes in memory, the person suffering from this condition often experience confusion about their identity and their personal history. Since if they go back to the normal condition or to the normal state or normal awareness, they cannot actually some at times they cannot actually recall or they cannot relate. Hindi nila maipagtagpi-tagpi yung kwento. Bakit kaya bigla akong sinaksak yung aso? Okay, in the normal state or consciousness, yung sobrang ano siya, sobrang pet lover siya. Okay, but the subconscious mind thinks the other way around. Okay, so nagugulat itong sufferer because in the past pala, ayan, for example, na ano siya, tagat siya ng aso, alright, or ano siya, nagkaroon siya ng trauma with dogs, okay? And that is stored in the subconscious part of the mind. But today, since it was already a product of the past, okay, at nakarecover na siya from that experience, biglang nagbago yung kanyang pananaw sa buhay at naging pet lover siya. Alright? But from time to time, okay, bumabalik yung kanyang ano yun, yung kanyang subconscious, yung experience na, which is buried down deep within the subconscious mind. But he or she has this experience in the past, okay, causing him or her to be traumatized from those. Alright? So, dahil nga sobrang takot niya sa mga dogs, okay, pag bumabalik yung kanyang experience in the past, nasaktan niya o napatay niya yung aso. Okay? Tapos nung bumalik siya dun sa kanyang normal na pag-iisip ngayon, okay, nagulat na siya. She or he cannot relate already the what the yung kanyang subconscious experience from what he is experiencing today. Napaka complicated, yun nga sabi ko sa inyo, parang hindi siya nangyayari, okay, as a normal being. You cannot imagine actually that these things are happening in a certain individual, but in reality this actually exists. Okay, so people with dissociative disorder may also experience depression. All right, so hindi karamihan ng mga mental problems natin can actually start from anxiety, and then later on pag hindi natin siya naagapan, it becomes a part of our sad being. We become depressed, and pag hindi natin na-overcome yung depression, it produces more and more problems or mental health issues. All right, they can also experience mood swings. Worst is suicidal tendencies. They can also suffer from sleep disorders like insomnia. They cannot sleep. There is an inability of that person to sleep properly. There are night terrors and even sleepwalking. At times, people with dissociative disorders can actually have panic attacks, okay, and phobias as well. All right, so they have phobias from flashbacks or reactions to stimuli or to triggering factors. All right, yung halimbawa, an experience of the same traumatic event which was experienced in the past. Okay, they can also resort to alcohol and drug abuse. Some would manifest compulsions and rituals, which is seen in obsessive compulsive people, psychotic-like symptoms, including auditory and visual hallucinations, and some others can experience eating disorders. Right. So again and again, females are more frequently affected by this disorder. More than 5 times as many women than men have problems with multiple personality disorders, or you call it dissociative identity disorders. But with the availability of materials, parang mas marami ang pinapakitang lalaki kaysa babae who is suffering from dissociative identity disorders. And even movies, okay, mas marami yung lalaki na pinoportray nila uh, na pinoportray nila was suffering from dissociative identity. But you know, with the data available and according to statistics, there are more women suffering from this condition. So comorbid conditions commonly found in individuals with dissociative disorders are depression, very prevalent to these people, post-traumatic stress disorder or PTSD, since PTSD can also be related to traumatic experiences in the past, and the use of substances or illicit drugs, and at the same time, borderline personality. As you know, you have to understand that borderline people are easily attached, and once they separate their selves, okay, from people they are connected with for for a very, even in a short period of time, okay, they become very they become ang tawag dito, overreactive, nagkakaroon sila ng separation anxiety, and yun nga, very very clingy kasi itong mga borderline person. And kapag nahiwalayan sila, iniwan sila ng mga taong mahal nila sa buhay, they become so overreactive. At times, may mga violent na individuals, and they can actually hurt somebody or themselves. Okay? The personalization disorder as a part of dissociative disorders usually occurs during late adolescence or adulthood, while dissociative identity, dissociative amnesia, and dissociative fugue are common in adulthood. So for you to understand further what dissociative disorders are, I will be showing you a video, okay, from Osmosis. Okay. All right. So hindi daw siya available. Let's see.
Maybe you've had the experience of driving on autopilot. One minute you get in your car, and the next minute you've arrived at your destination, but you can't actually remember the details of the drive. This is an example of normal, everyday dissociation, a term that describes a mental state of disconnection from what's going on around you. Normally, this daydreamy state doesn't last very long, and most people can snap out of it if something or someone requires their attention. But for some people, dissociation is more pervasive and can't be tuned out of so easily. In fact, the feeling of disconnection may become so intense and happen so often that it stops a person from functioning in their daily life. And when this is the case, we say that the person has a dissociative disorder. Dissociative disorders are a group of disorders that can cause impaired awareness of one's own actions, thoughts, physical sensations, and even identity, which is a sense of who you are. Dissociative disorders tend to stem from trauma, usually early childhood abuse or neglect, and are thought to be a way of adapting to negative feelings and experiences. Dissociative disorders are divided into three main types: depersonalization derealization disorder, dissociative amnesia, and dissociative identity disorder. Each of these disorders falls along a spectrum of severity, with depersonalization derealization disorder being the least severe end of the dissociative disorders, dissociative amnesia falling somewhere in the middle, and dissociative identity disorder being the most severe. Typically, individuals with more severe dissociative disorders may have elements of less severe ones as well. With depersonalization derealization disorder, depersonalization refers to a feeling of detachment from oneself, your own person, while derealization refers to a feeling that the world around you isn't fully real. Those with the disorder often feel as if they're watching themselves from the outside, maybe watching a movie about their life. They might feel emotionally or physically numb, or have a weak sense of self. Individuals with depersonalization derealization disorder might speak in a deadpan manner with little emotion, and have trouble forming relationships. In severe cases, a person may have trouble recognizing familiar places, people, or objects, and this can make it hard to learn new tasks. Other symptoms include an altered sense of time, where things seem to move too fast or slow, brain fog or lightheadedness, and being prone to rumination and anxiety. Dissociative amnesia is when a person blocks out or forgets important personal information that most people would remember for a lifetime, like where they lived as a child or what their mother looked like. Dissociative amnesia can be divided into four types: localized, generalized, systematized, and continuous. Most people with dissociative amnesia have localized amnesia, meaning they have trouble recalling a traumatic event. Sometimes the memory loss is broader and includes months or years surrounding the event. Generalized amnesia is where a person can't remember any of their past, even non-traumatic parts. The onset of generalized amnesia can be sudden, stress-induced, and may be accompanied by a dissociative fugue, meaning a temporary period of disorientation and wandering or travel. In a fugue state, a person may be confused about who they are, or they may believe that they're someone else. They may also temporarily lose deeply ingrained skills. For example, a computer engineer may forget how to use a laptop. In systematized amnesia, a person only forgets a category of information which is in some way associated with a trauma, like forgetting everything about a certain person or a specific location, even if it was a significant part of their life. And finally, continuous amnesia happens when a person forgets each new event after it happens and retains nothing but the present moment, a bit like the fish Dory in the film Finding Nemo. And continuous amnesia doesn't always relate back to psychological trauma. The third type of dissociative disorder is dissociative identity disorder, which used to be called multiple personality disorder. Dissociative identity disorder can be broken down into two types: covert dissociative identity disorder and overt dissociative identity disorder. By far the most common type, covert dissociative identity disorder occurs when a person experiences sudden and dramatic shifts in the way they perceive, think, or feel, as if they've taken on characteristics of a different person or people. Some people with covert may hear that person's voice and feel that it's speaking to them. Those with covert dissociative identity disorder are usually aware that their experience is unusual, and may feel disoriented and powerless to understand their moods and behaviour. On the other hand, those with overt dissociative identity disorder outright assume two or more distinct identities, sometimes called personalities or alters. The identities are distinct because they tend to talk and act differently than the original person. They may have opposing tastes or political views, be different ages, genders, or nationalities. These alternate identities completely take a person's body and mind, suppressing all other identities temporarily. Those with overt dissociative identity disorder aren't always aware that this is happening, and may report forgetting whole portions of their day. They may find groceries that they can't recall buying, or discover injuries to their body that they can't recall getting. And it's not unusual for some people to have a period of fugue and suddenly find themselves in a different town or city. Having overt dissociative identity disorder can potentially endanger the person, especially if one identity engages in self-mutilation or risky behaviour. The prevalence of suicide among those with the condition is very high, with almost 3/4 attempting suicide at least once in their life. Diagnosing dissociative disorders can be tricky, and some of the symptoms can be seen in substance intoxication, especially of hallucinogens like LSD and dissociative drugs like PCP and ketamine. Other causes include seizures, brain trauma, as well as chronic conditions like dementia. Psychiatric conditions like anxiety disorder can cause an impaired sense of identity, time, and sensation, especially during a panic attack. But these symptoms usually last minutes to hours, whereas with dissociative disorders, the symptoms can persist for years. Finally, bipolar disorder and schizophrenia can also cause dramatic mood swings, mimicking dissociative identity disorder. But while these depressive or euphoric moods can last for a week, the change in personality in dissociative identity disorder only lasts for minutes to hours each time. Treatment for dissociative disorders typically involves psychotherapy, so people can process the trauma safely. In the case of dissociative identity disorder, the goal of therapy is to facilitate fusion of identities, where a person's personality states are integrated and the person feels more whole. Alright, as a quick recap, dissociative disorders often develop as an attempt to adapt to severe or prolonged trauma. Falling on the least severe end of the spectrum, depersonalization derealization disorder is due to a disruption in the normal perception of events. Falling in the middle of the spectrum, dissociative amnesia is due to disruption in memory. And falling on the most severe end of the spectrum, dissociative identity disorder is due to a problem with having a single complete identity.
The Buddy Boss app for LearnDash is almost here!
Hi everyone, Sarah here. Thanks for watching.
All right, so that is now a comprehensive, actually a concise explanation of what dissociative disorders are all about. And for you to understand further dissociative identity or multiple personality disorder, you can watch this movie, ayan, by James McAvoy. It's called Split. Meron din siya nung isa pa, ito naman si Glass. Okay? You can actually watch this if you have time. All right. These are good movies. Okay, for you to have a picture of what dissociative identity disorders are all about. Okay. All right. So, as mentioned in the video that you have watched a while ago, possible causes of dissociative uh, disorders are actually traumatic events or sensitive, um, really sensitive issues or problems, which could have affected their developmental stage as a child. So this traumatic experience may involve war, all right, natural or transportation disasters, criminal attacks, or exposure to chronic physical, sexual, or emotional abuse, or less frequently a home environment that is otherwise frightening or highly unpredictable. Okay, so the stressful familial relationships. Okay, and with these experiences may have cause or can be related actually to the development of this dissociation. Di ba sabi nga natin kanina, when something is painful, a person is able to separate it from their consciousness, okay, and they bury it down into their subconscious mind. Okay, so it's not actually a way for them to physically escape from the problem daw, sabi ng mga theorists. But it's a process done by these people to find a separate compartment in their minds, okay, to store these traumatic experiences. So dissociation is a primitive defense normally employed by children through imaginary activities. They have playmates and fantasy. It is present until 10 years of age, when the child switches to other defense mechanisms in response to stressors as she gains or he gains more maturity and skill in handling stressful life situations. So they dissociate for them to relieve themselves from these stressful situations. And this dissociation or activity becomes pathological when its indiscriminate use persists until adolescence. So they can develop as many personalities. Okay, so they can have 100 plus personalities, a thousand forms of personality. All right, and at times maybe you're asking, are they aware of the other personality that they have? Actually, some people are aware of the the different of the other person that they are exhibiting at times, but some are unaware. Okay, so hindi sila aware sa mga nangyayari din sa sa kanila. Okay, when they shift from one person to another. Okay, so in the psychopathology of the dissociative identity disorder, children also employ dissociation as an effective defense against psychological stress. So the child dissociates by stepping outside himself in his head. Okay, sa kanyang utak, parang I can switch from this personality again depending on the type of experience. So sa madaling sabi, halimbawa, nung grade 1 siya, okay, lagi siyang binubully, okay, na ano, na lagi siyang inaasar sa room nila. Okay, so ang ginawa niya, because of that experience, every time na binubully siya, nambubugbog siya ngayon ng kaklase. Ayan. When that person entered grade 3, okay, ano naman, lagi naman siyang sinasaktan ng kanyang tatay because, ang dami nang dahil sa pangbubuli sa kanya at dahil nga din very reactive siya sa mga bullies, okay, lagi siyang napapahamak sa school, laging pinapatawag ang kanyang magulang. That's why when that person entered grade 3, okay, laging pinapatawag yung tatay o kaya yung nanay niya. So, dahil sa sobrang galit ng tatay at nanay at dahil na rin sa kahihiyan, nasasaktan siya ngayon ng kanyang magulang. Okay? So, na-develop yung isang person ulit sa kanya at that time. So, ang na-develop naman sa kanya, yung medyo, takot na personality. Okay? At yung nagpapaubaya na personality naman. Okay? So, very submissive personality. Pagdating niya ng grade 5, grade 6, that was the first time na in love siya sa isang tao, but he or she was rejected by that person. So, ito naman yung type of personality na medyo, okay, yung unang personality niya ng grade 1 is yung retaliating personality. Okay? Yung second personality niya na nag-develop ng grade 3 is yung submissive na personality. Tapos yung na-develop naman ng grade 5 and grade 6 siya. Ito naman yung madalas nagsa-self-pity, okay, dahil lagi siyang iniiwan, hindi naibibigay yung kanyang mga gusto. Ganyan. So there are already 3 personalities that were developed, okay, during this time. Okay? So meron na siyang tatlong personalities na develop over time. So, for example, paglaki niya, okay, when that person uh, is already working, for example, nasa mga 20 years old or 25 na siya, okay, pag nakakakita siya o nakaka-experience siya ng pambubuli, nag-shift yung kanyang utak into that personality that she has when she is in grade 1. Nagiging tawag dito, nagre-retaliate siya kapag may nambubuli sa kanya, nananakit siya. kapag merong nang aasar sa kanya. So, ganun yung lumalabas na personality. Pero kapag dumadating yung time na nakakakita siya ng parent, okay, na very abusive, biglang pupunta yun sa sulok, tapos parang takot na takot, and very submissive yung kanyang personality naman. So, it shifts, okay, from one personality to another, depending on the type of situation that he or she is in. So, because dissociation provides effective escape from pain and anxiety, the child resorts to it whenever the traumatic experience is happening again. Okay? So, repeated application of dissociation provides conditioning and reinforcement until the defense becomes a well-established pattern of behavior. So eventually, the individual automatically engages in dissociation as a defense to other stressors. So the person or the sufferer of this condition is very comfortable, okay, with the different personality or the shifting of personality, okay, that she or he has. So even if the anxiety producing situation is not as extreme or abusive, or even after the traumatic circumstances are long past. Okay. So dissociative disorders tend to run in families. You have to take note of this. Thus, a hereditary predisposition to dissociate has been suggested by some scientists or some researchers of this disorder. There are actually four, okay, which are contained under dissociative disorders, and they are dissociative amnesia, dissociative fugue, the personalization disorder, and the severe form is your dissociative identity disorder, or it is called as your multiple personality disorder in the past. So let's start with your dissociative amnesia. It is one or more episodes of inability to recall personal information. So dissociative amnesia is also called as psychogenic. Okay, it is also called as psychogenic amnesia. Okay, psychogenic meaning psycho is the mind, genic meaning genesis or start. Okay, starts in the mind. Okay, it's an amnesia that actually starts in the mind. So there's an inability to recall important personal information or events which are usually connected to a trauma or stressful event. Okay? So, hindi mo na maalala na ah, pinapalo ka noon, na binabartolina ka ng bata ka, because this okay experiences are too extensive to be explained by ordinary forgetfulness, and it is not associated with an organic disorder such as head injury. So hindi naman siya related to head injury, but these experiences are para siyang parang nilagay mo na siya sa recycle bin, kumbaga. Okay? So, amnesia is a result of the person, this is the defense of that person. Nagkakaroon siya ng amnesia to block or to suppress this information in the past. Usually, yung sabi natin kanina, it is associated with stressful, unappealing, okay, at yung mga hindi nakarapat dapat na dalhin pa natin in the future or in the present time, okay, which these experiences can cause excessive psychological distress, okay, if such information can appear again in the awareness or consciousness of that person. So most patients with amnesia remember missing memories continuously. Okay, so naaano pa rin nila na tawag dito, may mga pagkakataon pa rin na it appears in the consciousness. But this could be by gradual recall or by dramatic flooding or flooding of memories. Okay? So, may association pa rin. Kung halimbawa, they have an experience that is exactly the same or synonymous to the experience in the past, it can okay appear gradually. So in most cases, when this memory returns, it happens while the patient is at home or with people they are comfortable with, like family and close friends. All right. All right. So in dissociative amnesia, the patient is aware of the deletion in continuous memory. So for example, yung pasyente, hindi niya matandaan yung single time na nabuhay siya with a relative during her senior year in high school, but can remember all the days or the other events, okay, during that year. All right. So merong specific na experience in that whole story, okay, na hindi niya maalala. Okay? So there is an outright deletion, okay? Uh, meron tayong binuburang detalye, okay, from a certain story. So this, yun nga, sabi nga natin paulit-ulit, it can be a traumatic one, it can be a stressful event. Okay, so as our defense, okay, or as a defense of the sufferer of this condition, if he or she deletes the memory, okay, and at times these individuals may resort to confabulation, okay. So confabulation, as we all know, is the deletion or the invention of false information to fill memory gaps. So for example, um, uh, merong JS prom, alright, and in that JS prom, she was actually expecting for her crush, okay, maybe, na isayaw siya during the prom, but uh, along the way, hindi siya naisayaw ng kanyang crush, and yung kinaiinisan niyang tao in their batch, okay, ang nagsayaw sa kanya. Okay? And she doesn't like the experience. Okay? So ayaw niya yung experience na yun. She deleted that part of the story, and then nag-fill in siya ngayon ng bagong kwento. Okay? Like for example, sinayaw siya ng tawag dito, nung isa pang crush niya, for example. So hindi man ako isinayaw ni crush A, but at least I was happy that night because my crush B was able to dance with me. So parang gano'n. So nagko-confabulate ngayon yung sufferer just to fill in the 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 gap. Okay, just to fill in that bad memory that she has. Okay, in that story. So they may also resort to various forms of self-monitoring to protect themselves from amnesia, such as taking notes. Okay, so they take notes, they make diaries, and in that diary, uh, tinatanggal nila yung mga pangit na kwento of their lives. Okay, and they fill it in with beautiful ones, okay, or acceptable ones, for them to write a good story about themselves. Okay, so still that is called confabulation. So the disorder is considered the primary defense mechanism to excessive stress, and secondary defense mechanism used are repression and denial. Okay, so oo nga, hindi pa pala tayo tapos sa ating defense mechanisms. But of course, I'll have a different lecture siguro regarding those topics for you to understand further what am I talking about. So amnesia may provide the primary gain, okay? So nare-relieve siya kapag kinakalimutan niya yung mga pangit na memories. There is a relief, okay? Dahil nga wala na, tanggal na yung mga pangit na kwento ng kanyang story. And a possible secondary gain also can be achieved at least kapag hindi na niya maalala yung pangit na kwento, okay, hindi na maapektuhan yung kanyang daily activities, alright, and hindi na rin naapektuhan yung kanyang tawag dito, yung kanyang performance sa work, yung pakikitungo niya sa ibang tao, mga ganyan. So, the disorder occur more commonly still among women and more often in young adults than in older adults. So, its incidence increase in times of natural or man-made disasters. So, there are actually coexisting conditions also with dissociative amnesia, such as mood disorders like bipolar, depression, mga ganyan, and other anxiety-related disorders such as PTSD or your post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, so how do we intervene? So what are we going to do if we have these patients, okay, suffering from dissociative amnesia? Number one, treatment towards recovery is initiated by providing the person with a supportive environment that establishes a sense of safety. So when they feel safe, they feel secured in a structured environment, they can actually build a satisfying, okay, experiences that they do not need to confabulate, they do not need to fill in gaps, okay, just to make a good story about themselves. So the nurse informs the patient that in most cases, memories return, all right? So especially if the person is removed, okay, from that stressful situation. So these measures of providing the patient with hope for recovery and a sense of safety are frequently effective enough in restoring the patient's missing memory. So the nurse can be very therapeutic by encouraging patients' verbalization of conflicts. Okay, just like in yung somatoform disorder ninyo, you just have to dig in deeper to the conflict, to the internal conflict that they have. So painful experiences like anxiety, all right, can actually trigger the existence of dissociative amnesia. So you have to provide again a supportive environment where she or he feels safe to talk about his or her experiences, her thoughts, her feelings at the moment. All right, and that is the most important part of the treatment process. Okay, so the nurse should not overwhelm the patient with expectations of speed. So hindi natin sila pwedeng i-pressure that you have to recover in this period of time, okay, in 2 months, mga ganyan. So it the treatment process for for this kind of patient is actually it needs a gradual it needs a gradual process, okay, uh, for them to recover from this condition. You have to take note that the problem here in the dissociative amnesia is actually the stressors and the anxiety-provoking situations, okay, that they encounter. So the moment that these stressful situations are removed or are relieved, okay, then the start of recovery or the process of recovery may start very soon. So the nurse should enlist the family's cooperation. Napaka-importante pa rin ng consistency natin, okay, sa pagbigay sa pag-handle dito sa ating pasyente by always providing, okay, or reminding the family to orient the patient, okay, most of the time or frequently regarding reality orientation. Okay? So we always have to orient the patient into reality at sabihin sa kanya na, hey, I think, for example, yung nagka-confabulate sila, I think that's not real. It never happened. Okay? So what happened was, okay, like this, like that. Pero syempre masakit sa part na yan. That's why you have to continue comforting that person. But you know what? Even though, okay, that happened, okay, during your prom, you have to take note that it is already an experience of the past, and I think you have to move on to move forward with what happened before. All right, so you always have to acknowledge the feeling of the patient all the time. Okay, na-acknowledge dapat natin yung kanilang reactions din that unstable yung kanilang emotions and their thinking as well. So you have to comfort them as much as possible. Okay, but of course, comforting is not enough. Okay, hindi siya sapat. That's why you have to orient the person into reality. Okay, because the moment that they are oriented to reality, okay, yung pagko-confabulate nila will be avoided. At the same time, the recovery from that from the stressful situation will be fast track, okay, mas mabilis, okay, at mas mapapabuti natin yung kanilang condition over time. So aside from reality orientation, okay, psychotherapy and hypnosis can also be effective methods, okay, in treating this the patient. All right. So in psychotherapy and hypnosis, if memories do not come back as expected, or if there is an urgent need to restore them, memory retrieval strategies such as questioning the patient while under hypnosis are often resorted by the therapist. Okay, so the patient is first calmed and maybe sedated with drugs such as thiopental. Okay, yung ating amobarbital or midazolam, okay, before the interview is initiated to induce the patient in hypnotic or semi-hypnotic state. Okay, so these medications, okay, yung thiopental natin, okay, ayan, you have your midazolam, okay, midazolam, and you have your amobarbital. All right. So these are sedating drugs, sedatives, okay, that may help in the process of hypnosis. So the patient can now, in hypnosis, what we want to achieve are the following benefits, such as the patient can recall lost memories as the unconscious is uncovered during hypnosis. Okay, so you have to take note that the process of hypnosis would like to unveil, okay, the contents of the unconscious mind. So pinapalabas natin yung mga experiences niya at the tip of the iceberg, di ba? Yung nandun sa unconscious mind niya. So as such, suggestions of the therapies to the patient can influence the patient's perception of and processing of his memories. So this way, the therapies can help the patient resolve conflicts and heal the stressful situations or the trauma psychologically. So once the amnesia is lifted, the treatment continues, but this time, the purpose is to help the patient clarify the trauma or conflicts and resolve the problems associated with them. Okay? So that is now your dissociative amnesia. Alright? So, next, okay, medyo bilisan natin konti because we are lagging behind. Dissociative fugue, okay, is a rare and it is usually a temporary disorder characterized by sudden, bigla-biglang, and hindi maipaliwanag at hindi mo akalain na paglalakbay ng isang tao sa isang lugar na napakalayo due to identity confusion, hindi niya kilala yung kanyang sarili, and an inability of the person to recall some or his entire past. So, uh, this is an unexpected travel away from home or work, uh, making that person to be unable to recall the past, kung taga saan siya, kung sino siya, okay, forgetting his totality as a person. So there is a prolonged confusion and inability to recall one's identity, and this may cause this person or the sufferer to drift from one place to another. So if he or she travels from one place to another, and the person leaves behind his past life, okay, his family, his friends, and mga kakilala niya in the past. If the person's memory does not return after several days, he or she may partially or completely assume a new identity to replace the personal details that are lost. Actually, may mga ganong situations. I think there is a case that was featured in KMJS, I think, na they were looking for this person for a long period of time until they got an information na this person that they're looking for is residing into a new place already, and when they get to talk to that person, they were able to find, okay, the location of this person. Iba na yung kanyang identity, iba na yung kanyang pangalan, the person can no longer recall the memories in the past, and hindi na niya ma-recognize yung mga tao naghahanap sa kanya. So, most few states last only for a few hours to several days, but in rare cases, it may take months and even years before the patient's memory returns. All right? So, if you occurs for only a short time, the person may only experience mild anxiety upon finding himself in strange circumstances or in his or her new location, and would be able to appear to his or her family that he or she have just come home late or missed a day's work. So parang wala na siya sa bahay for 8 hours, pero ang feeling niya, na-late lang siya from his work. Parang ganun. So, hindi na niya ma-connect yung 8 hours na yon doon sa totoong hindi na niya maalala yung 8 hours na nawala. Okay? Dahil sa kanyang paglaboy-laboy. Ayan yung dissociative fugue is actually palaboy-laboy ang ang term natin dyan in layman's. Alright? So when fugue lift, the person returns home and is unable to recall his life during the fugue state. Okay, so hindi nila mai-connect yung nangyari along the way. And however, the person may experience depression, discomfort, nahihiya sila, they feel embarrassed, okay, or they may resort to suicide or aggressive impulses when they are confronted abruptly. That's why you have to explain, okay, in a non-judgmental way, in a uh, in a compassionate way, yung experience na nangyari sa kanya. Because if they are confronted in a confrontational way, or parang pinapagalitan mo siya with what happened na hindi naman talaga nila alam, nagiging ano sila, nagiging violent sila in nature, and they may hurt somebody else or themselves. So often the disorder goes away from on its own, but you know, still they need treatment, okay, because these episodes may recur in the future when the patient is once again subjected to another or similar psychological distress. Okay, so it is very important that these people are, taking down notes, or they make diaries of experiences that may trigger, okay, the occurrence of dissociative fugue. So this disorder is formally called the psychogenic fugue, which means, okay, the fugue stems from the Latin word to flight, okay, or it is in Latin, it is fugue means fugue is taken from the Latin word fugere, okay, which means to fly. Okay, ayan. So nagta-travel siya from one place to another. And there is a very low percentage of people suffering from this condition. But of course, ano pa rin ito, nakakatakot at nakakabahala pa rin yung ganitong experiences. Because, with the hostile world that we are living in, okay, pwede silang mapagsamantalahan, okay, or pwede silang gamitin ng ibang tao for their vested interest. So approximately there are 0.2, okay, of the general population who are identified to be suffering from dissociative fugue. Okay? So siguro mas malaki pa yung number, okay, ng mga sufferers nito if na-document, okay, or aware din tayo na may mga ganitong tao na pala sa paligid natin, and we do not report it to authorities. Alright. So, dissociative fugue. Alright. So, ayan na. Napaka-short na kanyang explanation. So, confused about personal identity or assumes new identity. So, how do we intervene again with these clients? Okay. So, hospitalization provides safety if this is recurring, paulit-ulit, may remission of the fugue. You can already coordinate with the nearest hospital facility or a mental or behavioral clinic to, admit these patients, okay, with severe confusion regarding their identity or chronic amnesia during the fugue episode. So hospitalization actually can provide an opportunity to at least assess the patient, to confirm the diagnosis, and then initiate treatment. At the same time, we now evaluate the responses of the client to therapies and possible medications. Okay, so um, actually, there are no medications that directly treat the condition, but of course, we can give medications to lessen the anxiety that they are experiencing. At the same time, we can give antidepressants because these dissociative fugue are actually related to depressing experiences o kanilang mga mga tawag dito, mga nararanasang malulungkot na kwento ng kanilang buhay, and they can benefit actually from these medications. So once the depression and anxiety provoking situations are resolved, just like the other cases discussed a while ago, nawawala din yung kanilang episodes of fugue. At the same time, psychotherapy and hypnosis can also help the person. Okay, so hypnosis is very beneficial. Okay, um, by um, by letting that person remember his past. Okay, learn coping skills to handle grief, depression, fear, anger, yung kanilang remorse, and other psychological states that may emerge when that person faces or remembers his past. Okay? So, tinutulungan natin silang ma-recall yung kanilang nakaraan at once they are able to recall the past, okay, syempre we expect them to be, very aggressive in nature. And along the process, we help them to face, okay, o kailangan harapin nila yung problema, hindi nila pwedeng takasan. Because dissociative view is actually a physical way for this person to escape from, okay, their problems. So kung yung dissociative amnesia is a psychological way to escape from painful experiences or memories, si dissociative view naman is a physical way. Lumalayo naman siya doon sa actual ng problema. Okay? But actually, lumalayo siya na wala na siyang memory of that experience. Diba very unusual. Parang hindi ka panipaniwala o hindi talaga siya, hindi, uh, maski ako, I'm not convinced that, something like this happens. But, you know, um, pinag-aaralan natin siya dahil we want you to believe that these conditions are actually existing. Okay. So, kapag natuturuan natin sila to overcome these problems or issues internally, okay, we also help them face and we let them learn coping skills to handle stressful events, okay, to prevent further fugue episodes. So, iniwasan natin na magkaroon sila ng another episode of their fugue because they are at risk for accidents actually, okay, especially when they are outside. Okay, at risk sila for accidents and other, possible problems. All right? So, yon ang ating dissociative view. All right, next. Dissociative identity disorder. Okay, is mamaya. Babalikan natin si dissociative identity disorder. Okay. Ayan, so hindi siya nakasali class yung ating isang disorder pa under dissociative disorder. So the personalization disorder. So the personalization is the third most common psychiatric symptom next to anxiety and depression, and it is often experienced when one is faced, okay, with, all right, so this is now the personalization disorder, right? This is still a part of your dissociative disorders, wherein a symptom may occur in panic disorder or associated mental disorders like panic, borderline personality, PTSD, acute stress disorder, or maybe another dissociative disorder. So it is normally experienced by people when they are when they are under highly stressful situations. Okay, but actually this is not non like this is actually not life threatening. Okay, but still we have to be very careful in handling this kind of cases. So, ang personalization, okay, is a separation of that person or dissociation of that person to his or her environment. Okay, so hindi siya aware doon sa nangyayari sa kanyang environment. Hindi naman siya lumalayo, hindi siya nagpapalaboy-laboy kagaya ng dissociative view, at hindi rin siya nagkakaroon ng dissociative amnesia. Yun nga lang, kasi dissociative amnesia naman is you bury the stressful and problematic past, okay, para hindi na siya maranasan at present. Sa depersonalization naman, hindi siya aware dun sa nangyayari sa kanyang environment. There is a dissociation of that person to what is happening in the present. Okay, so present naman ito. So, the personalization helps to control the anxiety towards a stressful situation so that the person can function properly. Iniiwasan ng tao ito yung stressful situation that he or she experiences at the moment para maging smooth flowing pa rin yung kanyang pagtatrabaho, yung kanyang ginagawa. Okay? However, when the personalization episodes occur frequently, paulit-ulit na siya, and it tumataas yung kanyang tolerance, okay, the patient's normal functioning may be affected as the patient in increasing disease to experience the reality of his body and the environment. So, um, hindi pwedeng mag-work yung mga taong may ganitong condition in a very and in a highly stressful situation. Okay? Dahil nga ang kailangan sa mga sa trabaho natin, of course, we decide, we make sensitive decisions most of the time, but these people cannot handle actually this decisions or dilemmatic, okay, situations. So the distinguishing feature of the personalization disorder is the feeling that one's body or self is disconnected or unreal. So patients with this disorder describe an alteration in the sense of self, a frightening experience of not being within one's own body or of being in immediate danger of vanishing or separating from reality. Okay? So, ano pa rin siya? Parang hindi siya kapani-paniwala. So, assessment would include the following. So, different individuals, depending on how they perceive their body or their sense of self, may experience the personalization in their own different ways. So, patients suffering from this kind of problem report recurrent, paulit-ulit, at persistent, medyo lumalala yung kanilang episodes, okay, such as the following: out-of-body experiences, okay, out-of-body experiences as if they are watching themselves from a distance outside their body, okay. At the same time, they have passive influence experiences such as feeling controlled like a robot, feeling nila they are merong nagko-control sa kanila, and that the functions of their body are automatic, or as if functions such as speech are not under their control but have a mind of their own. Okay, so they feel as if someone is controlling their actions. Distorted perceptions of their body, in which they feel that parts of their body are changing in sizes or shape. Para silang um, transform. Okay, feeling nila they are transforming from another type, from a different species. Okay, or yung kamay nila nagiging metal, nagiging iron, mga ganyan. So there's also a thought, okay, or feeling of invisibility in which others cannot see them. Okay, so feeling nila they have this superpower of making themselves invisible from other people, and experiences in which they do not recognize themselves in the mirror or photograph. Parang tutingin nila sa salamin, nag-iiba yung kanilang appearances. And feeling that their reflection belongs to someone else. Okay? Ayan. So, at the same time, there is a feeling of detachment from their emotions. Alright? And experiences in which they're talking out loud to themselves like a separate person. Okay. So the personalized individuals often report difficulties in perception, concentration, and at the same time, memory. So what we need to do in these kinds of patient is just have to orient them to the real world. What else? To lessen the anxiety that they are experiencing. We have to secure their safety and security as well. Okay, since they have the tendency to mutilate themselves. Okay, since they feel that they are different. So pag feeling nila may metal sa arms nila, okay, parang i-challenge nila ngayon yung katawan nila, sige nga, susugatan ko nga itong metal kung talagang metal ito. Okay? But of course, yung gamit nilang kutsilyo for that matter, ang susugatan niya is yung kanyang skin. Okay? So they have this ability to, okay, hurt themselves. Okay? Since they would like to challenge, okay, if really what they're experiencing are true. Okay? So that's it for now. Ayan, so we will have a separate discussion of your dissociative identity disorder. Medyo mahaba-haba itong topic na ito. And for you to have an idea of what the DID is all about, I suggest that you watch Glass or Split. Actually, tatlong movies yan. Okay. Na para mas maintindihan niyo kung ano ang dissociative identity disorder. Alright, so expect for a short quiz next time about about the topics that we have discussed, starting Okay, this midterm. Thank you so much and